Some people don't believe that Steph Curry is a human, and I don't blame them. I mean, if you just tune into Warriors games, it's clear as day and night that this man can hit any type of shot from any given distance. And here's a clear example of that. With the shot clock winding down against a tough defender, he knew he had to put up a shot quickly. But, see, no one in that arena would have thought that number 30 was going to cook up something like this. Sheesh. I mean, Steph almost gave this man a heart attack for Pete's sake. Time and time again, Steph has made dozens of shots like that look easy, as if he's operating beyond the level of mortals, and in this video, I'll be laying out stories and some stone-cold facts to prove why Steph Curry is not human. Alright guys, let's start off by talking about this graphic right here. In case you haven't tuned in, Steph is averaging a little over 30 points a ball game this season, and according to the advanced analysis, courtesy of StatMuse, the chef is also shooting better in certain offensive zones, which are far from his specialty, and surprisingly, he's doing it better than other players who are considered elite in these particular areas. I mean, he shoots better than DeMar DeRozan in the mid-range, he's more efficient than KD in ISO situations, and heck, even if he's not known as an inside player, Steph beats Zubats on 2-point percentages. And then on top of that, he's even better than the Greek Freak himself when it comes to making shots coming from inside the paint. Sheesh, guys. It honestly doesn't get much crazier than that. Now, StatMuse didn't even include 3-point shooting in the graphic, which we all know is Steph's area of expertise, but just to prove that he's not human, I went ahead and researched it myself, and here's what I found. Within the top 10, 20, or even top 30, when it comes to 3-point attempts per game, minus Desmond Bane, Steph is the most efficient, scoring it at an astounding 44.1% with 11.9 attempts on average. I mean, what Curry is doing here is beyond human, if you ask me. Anyways, aside from that fact, here's another story that will blow your mind. When Steph was around 10 or 11 years old, his dad played for the Raptors, and during his time, Dell would often bring his sons to play with his teammates during shoot-arounds. Now, there were times when the Curry brothers would challenge them to shooting games, like mini 3-point shootouts and stuff like that. And according to Seth, this is what happened when they went up against actual NBA players when they were just kids.
Sometimes they would let us jump in, shoot around games, like spots, so it'd be like one team line on this corner, one on the other, and they would they would let us jump in and play. So you have Vince Carter. When my dad was in Toronto, you have Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady, Muggsy Bogues, some of those guys shooting against them, and we were still some of the best shooters in the gym when it comes to spot shooting.
How old were you at that point?
I was in 5th grade. Steph was
he's
7th, 8th grade. So I don't.
And you guys were 10. Shooting as 10. Well as them?
Yeah, we could shoot threes. Yeah, like when you would pick teams in these shooting games, we would be one of the top picks. Yeah. We can pick before NBA players, like, before some of the big men pick. So, wow. I mean, we could shoot it, and I mean.
Now, aside from shooting games with some older dudes, Steph would also play straight-up one-on-one games against them, and one that he frequently played back then was Vince Carter. VC recalled the moments when he played against the 11-year-old Steph Curry in an interview, and here's what he said.
Before every home game, after my workout, Steph and I would play one-on-one. So I do my workout, and you see it on the sideline, dribbling, working on the shot. It's like, you ready? Almost done. Ready, and then we go at it and we play. Like that's what it was, and you can see as the year we go into the beginning year, but as the year moved on, he started gaining confidence, figuring out ways to get his shot off, and it got to the point where I need to block this shot because I don't want him thinking he could beat me
exactly.
At that time, and you know, it's just for him. It's just like, people see it's like, this is a fun game, but now he's learning how to get his shot off against taller guys, older guys, working on the quickness of the shot, which is important. For if you ask any college player now how important it is to be able to get your shot off like half a second quicker than you did before because of the quickness of the NBA, it matters. And I think him getting these repetitions, 41 games, 41 professional games was paramount for him.
Now, when Steph got a little older and entered the NBA, he would still find new ways to improve his game to the next level, and that includes wearing crazy stuff like this. These are called strobe glasses, and what it does is it improves the coordination between the eyes, brain, and body, which then helps the player react faster. Sheesh, guys. Talk about not human. Now, when you wear this, here's what you see. Seeing only half of the time diminishes your visual senses, and in the case of Steph, this forces his brain to act quicker, which makes his reflexes faster because he could already anticipate things happening before they actually happen. I mean, a perfect example of this has to do with his ball handling. You rarely see Steph getting his pocket picked because his body already knows how to counter the moment someone tries to swipe the ball away from him. Now, on offense, the same thing also happens.
From the floor so far. Meanwhile,
like, it's already second nature for him to pull a quick trigger when he comes off a screen or when someone tries to close out and block his shot. This is one of the secrets as to why he's still on top of his game at this stage of his career, and it's certainly one of the things that separates him from the other great players in the league today. Anyways, moving on here. Now, before the MVPs, the championships, and all the glory that comes from being the best basketball player on the planet, you wouldn't have guessed that he was capable of achieving these things in the first place, because, let's be honest here, he doesn't quote-unquote look like a basketball player to begin with. I mean, when he was just a freshman in high school, it looked like Steph was destined for another profession, because at around this time, he was just a scrawny 5'6" kid who weighed 130 pounds. But, somewhere along the way, some miracle happened that changed his fortune. I mean, he grew to 5'9" all of a sudden in his junior year, then had a growth spurt going into his senior year, reaching 6 feet. Now, when he reached his sophomore year at Davidson, Steph's height jumped yet again to about 6'3", making him physically eligible to somehow at least compete in the NBA. And years later, who would have thought that this kid, you know, the same kid who used to shoot the ball coming from waist, would have become the greatest shooter of all time and the best player today? I mean, there's no way anyone could have predicted that. Anyway, guys, here's another fact why Steph Curry just isn't human. Did you know that he's the only player in NBA history to score 50+ points while only making one free throw? I mean, dropping 50 is definitely no walk in the park, but doing it by only going to the line once? Man, that is absolutely crazy. Now, for the sake of comparison, here are some great players who also scored a bunch of 50s like Steph. And here's the closest number of free throws that they've made in all of those 50+ games. I mean, as you can see, no one among these guys has managed to even get near Steph's insane record. And aside from this, did you also know that in 2015, Steph did the unthinkable by plowing through every member of the All-NBA first team in that year's playoffs? See, in the first round, Steph and the Dubs annihilated AD and the Pelicans via a sweep. Then right after that, Steph bullied the big and burly Marc Gasol in 6 games. Then, in the West Finals, he conquered James Harden and defeated the Rockets in 5. And lastly, Curry dethroned the King in the finals to grab his first ever NBA championship. I mean, running through the complete All-NBA first team is certainly no joke, and this story just proves yet again that Steph is a beast on a different level. Well, when I say beast, the chef has the tendency to do some stuff that even NBA players can't, and just hear me out here. See, aside from wowing the crowds during games, he's also quite famous for his pre-game routines. And actually, a lot of people would come to Warriors games a bit earlier just to see him get warmed up. Now, most of us know that Curry includes a bunch of different shooting drills in his routines. While none of that sounds really surprising, there was one time when he took one of his shooting drills to a whole new level. I mean, during a pre-game against Dallas, Steph casually knocked down shot after shot as he moved further and further back into the half court. And by the end of his shooting routine, Steph took a total of 16 shots. And the crazy part here is that he never missed a single shot, as if he was just throwing layups in a 3-foot rim. Now, here's another story proving that Steph is not human, but rather a machine. The clip that you just saw was just the first 5 seconds of a 5-minute long video in which Steph was just caught jacking up some corner threes after practice. Now, can you guess how many shots he made during that 5-minute stretch? Well, here's your answer.
hit 105 in a row. 105.
I mean, hitting 105 consecutive free throws is already quite impressive, but to do it from three-point range? Sheesh, this dude is just built different. Anyways, for our next story, rumor has it that Steph isn't like any other player during halftime, because instead of resting or watching film, he actually checks his social media to see what people have written about him. And according to his former teammate Andrew Bogut, Steph would go on Twitter to check people's comments about his game, and then here's what he does. He'll check his mentions at halftime when he has a bad half. It's the craziest shit I ever saw. Yeah, Steph, if he had a bad half, he would go on social media and then come out and drop 30 in the second half. And if you thought Bogut was lying, or if this wasn't real, here's Steph confirming that story.
I was looking at Twitter and looking at some of the, I'll call it hateful messages, but real strong opinions on how you're playing and all that based on, we call it first quarter Twitter. Like, it's the best thing in the world. Like, oh, the Warriors suck. We're down 6 at the end of the quarter. Then third quarter happens and you're like, all right, you kind of get off on that a little bit. So,
sheesh, guys. You know the drill. If you want Steph to do an outrageous third quarter, send him some strong opinions via Twitter and see him do his thing.